Hey, thanks so much for joining me for this Facebook scaling masterclass, all about how to scale your ads using the Waterfall ad scaling method. I'm super excited to jump into my actual ads manager and show you how I was able to scale from $17 a day to all the way up to $1,600 to the $2,000 a day in ad spend and retain at least a 2x return on investment for a $27 product, and how you can implement that same level of scaling strategy in your own business for a tiny offer or something similar. So with that being said, I'm going to jump into my ads manager. Give me a second to share my screen here. I have to find the right screen, however. Here we go. So I'm going to X out all this other stuff so we can focus. So when I started running these ads, the coolest thing about the way this method works is that you don't have to have a giant ad budget. You don't have to have thousands of dollars in your savings account ready to be spent. I started with approximately $18 the first day. I didn't have a budget to spend much more than that, to be honest with you. And the way that this system works is that you are getting your money back in your bank account within 3 days, as long as your campaign is converting. If it's not converting, you know to pause the campaign and rework things and try again. So it's not one of these campaigns where you have to, test things for weeks at a time and then do a big launch and hope that it works. You know immediately with this method, as your ad spend is waterfalling back into your account, you know if it's working or if it's not working. So I'm going to show you exactly. Let me show you the lifetime of my account here. So with this, I have spent in the last 6 months, I've spent $163,000 on Facebook ads. If you would have told me that like 6 months ago that I was going to spend that amount, I would have laughed in your face, because I did not have $163,000 to spend on Facebook ads. I was spending roughly, we could probably look at some of my old campaigns. I would spend like 30 bucks here, 50 bucks there, maybe 150 bucks. And I was never doing it consistently. So you can see that with these main campaigns, I've spent $163,000, but I've gotten a return. This is a little bit off because my, some tracking stuff isn't always exactly correct with Facebook ads. So it's closer to, I'd say like $370,000 in sales. So it's good to keep that in mind, that always double check what Facebook says you've made compared to like what your actual bookkeeper says you've made, because there can be some discrepancy there. But either way, I mean, that's a pretty good return on ad spend from 163 to all the way to $365,000 in the last 6 months of my business. So the way that I scaled this, and I'm going to go back in time a little bit and show you where I started. So if I go to, let's go to the very first day that I started this campaign and ran the ads. I started it on March 23rd, because it was the day before my dad's birthday. So I will remember that date forever, because it's the day that everything started to change for me. So the first day I spent $17.59, because like I said, I was terrified. If you followed my story at all, I was literally down to my last few dollars on my credit card. I didn't have anything extra in my bank account. I was struggling in my business. I was working client to client, and I was ready for something more. So this funnel was the more, and I launched this tiny product. It was a $27 product with a few upsells. So my average cart value ended up being about $50. So my first day I spent $17.59 and I made $44 back. So I was like, oh, so this is working. This is awesome. So what I kept doing is I knew that 44 was going to be dropping into my bank account within 2 days. So I recycled it, and I knew that I could spend at least that much the next day. And if I still turned a profit, then I was good. So then we'll look at the 24th. 24th is even better. So I spent $35 on the 24th, and I made $366 back. On the 25th, I spent $100, $105, and made $300. So you can see that, like, as this money is being spent by people buying the product, Stripe is depositing it into my bank account 2 days later. So I'm able to take this money and literally pay off my credit card, even though I didn't have a lot of time available, or a lot of space available. So if we look at like not that. Let me pull up that first week because it was pivotal. So if we look at this whole week, I spent $683 on ads and I made about $4,000 back. So I was able to take that $4,000 and put it all towards my credit card, towards my business expenses. You know, that's over $3,000 of profit in those early days that I was able to plug right back into my ads and start reinvesting and like paying off the credit card that was maxed, right? Like paying off anything that was keeping me stuck in my business and not giving me space to run ads. So you can see how quickly this method really compacts on itself. So I want to show you exactly how I was able to scale, and like instead of just adding all of that money into the campaign that was working, I scaled horizontally and vertically. Because if you have a campaign that's working well and you throw all your money that you want to spend in it, if you know you all of a sudden want to spend $500 a day, but you try to up just that one campaign, you're going to screw up the algorithm and you're going to lose your return on ad spend in most cases. So the ways to avoid that are to scale horizontally and scale vertically. And I'm going to show you what that means in just a second. So if I click into, I think it was in this campaign, the very first ad set that I ran was female funnel hackers. So if I click into here, I'll show you who that was. It was people who liked Russell Brunson, women between 25 and 50, from Australia, Canada, United Kingdom, United States, those English-speaking countries. And they also liked Amy Porterfield and Brene Brown, because I feel like those are kind of my people. So when I say scale horizontally, what I mean is that you can pull this little thing down right here that says breakdown and go into by action, not by action, by delivery. And you can decide how you want to start breaking that up and looking at the stats. So I looked at age, first of all. So I could see that of the female funnel hackers, the women between 25 to 34 were converting at about $7 per sale, and 35 to 44 were about $11 per sale. So you can see that if I wanted to change this up, if I wanted to duplicate what I was spending about $20 a day here. I was able to just hit duplicate again. And then when I'm actually creating it, I remember over here, because I can still see 25 to 34, then I edit this ad set, or edit this audience, and change it to 25 to 34. So then I'm running ads to a brand new audience, not a new audience, but a new segment of the same audience. X out of that. So I started creating brand new ad sets for each of these different demographic segments. So I would run it for $20 a day for 25 to 34, $20 a day to 35 to 44, 45 to 54. So I started breaking it up. I also started looking at, you know, what kind of devices were they on? So I could split it by, I know that iPhone buyers that are using Wi-Fi are converting at a certain level compared to desktop people. So you can start running campaigns specifically to that audience. You can start doing, you know, if I didn't have it split up by that country yet, I could look and do like country breakdown and do women 25 to 34 who live in the United States, women 25 to 34 who live in Canada. So then I can start breaking out those exact segments, and each of those is running at $20 a day. And if I know I'm getting, you know, 3x return, you know, a 3 return on whatever I'm spending, then if I spend, all of a sudden I'm spending $100 in each of these different ad sets, then I'm making $300 back. But I'm not scaling this one single campaign, because I know if I try to do that, it's going to make the algorithm go wonky and I'm not going to be able to make it work. But the other way that I was able to scale, when I say scale vertically, that means I was testing different audiences at the same time. So I was able to try things like, I'll give you a list of different audiences that you can target, but like Female Entrepreneur Association was one. Gary V, Amy, and Brene was another that I tested. Marie Forleo, social media interest, network marketers. That one never really converted well for me, but you know, maybe it's worth a shot. Then as soon as I was able to hit 100 sales, the second I did that, I created a lookalike audience, and ever since then, that has been one of my best audiences. But again, you can break that up into different segments of the lookalike audience and test different things. So that's a little bit of the brief overview of how I was able to scale horizontally and vertically when I was creating this campaign. And I've included a worksheet for you to be able to start planning out some of your audiences and look at different segments and different ways that you can look at that breakdown menu to start selecting what your best audiences might be. And that's when people really get into the testing of their audiences. That's what they're looking at. They're comparing these different subsets of ad sets. They're comparing different headlines, different images. You know, you can do dynamic creative now. So you can have Facebook decide what headline they're going to put with what image, with what copy. So you can really get into the testing and just constantly, you know, I can tell as soon as I've let my ads ride for too long and I haven't been actively testing, I can see my costs like slowly going up. But the second that I break it down again and I like test new ads and new audiences and do the testing in, that's what's going to keep your ad costs down, is knowing that this is a living, breathing engine and that the engine needs gasoline, and that your ads and the creative and the testing, that's the gasoline that you're putting into the ads. So one of the biggest problems that I see people make when their ads aren't converting anymore is that they just haven't given the ads the attention. And I can see that in my own funnel, is that like, as soon as I get comfortable and I stop testing new things, all of a sudden my ad costs are like creeping up. So some of the biggest advice that I can give you when it comes to scaling your ads is looking at what's converting, using best practices for headlines and copy and images, but really looking at the subsets and knowing what countries and what ages and like what platform and device. Is it better on Wi-Fi or not on Wi-Fi? I would say always keep the Wi-Fi on for people that are on mobile, because you're not going to get someone to buy something generally if they're like walking down the street scrolling their phone. So if it's on Wi-Fi, that typically means they're like sitting down in a comfortable area if they're on a mobile device, and they're going to be willing to go through the entire transaction. And you're also not as likely to lose them to a distraction. So those are some of the biggest tips that I can give you about the waterfall ad scaling method. Of course, I go into this in more depth in some of my other programs, but I hope this was helpful for you. And I'm excited to share some of those tips within the workbook that will show you even more detail of how to do this on your own. Thanks for watching.